When we are in the process of gender theory of change, we need to get into our societies first and then understand those societies. We do that by carrying out what we call a gender analysis. So a gender analysis is basically a process where you get into the society and understand that society at the level of the household, at the level of the community, and at national level. So after understanding that society, you want to determine what you actually want to change in that society so that that society can be transformed towards equality, so that both men and women can benefit from the opportunities within that community. After going through that process, which we call the gender analysis, that looks into the issues of power relations, issues of the gender division of labor, and the issues of access and control of resources, and understanding them very well, then you want to understand how these affect the men and the women in that society. For instance, you want to understand, fine, if these women in this society do not make decisions in terms of how they use resources in that household, how does it, for instance, affect these women from accessing things like health services, accessing things like legal services, or accessing even things like education? So what we see in the society is what we call the gender issues, or the constraints and the opportunities within that society. You need to get inside there and sensitize that society, meet some of the cultural leaders in that society, meet some of the households, engage the men, engage the women in some of those societies, and talk to them and let them understand that if they change some of these things, for instance, if men allow women to access land and own land, then chances are very high that when this woman grows crops on this land, this income is going to go back to the household. So that increases the income in the household. When we talk about the gender theory of change, it's very important to note that many times you don't get into the community and think that actually women want these changes to happen. So you also need to sensitize the women. We've seen societies where, for instance, you find that women are the ones that are perpetuating some of these society norms. You find in a society whereby the woman actually wants her son to inherit the land. And she is very determined that that status quo is maintained. You need to talk to the men, you need to talk to the women as well. You need to sit them together. They need to get to understand that if those gender and social norms, the negative ones, change, it is going to bring about equal opportunities in that community, and it's going to be for the benefit of the community. We started with our gender analysis. We came out with our constraints and opportunities, what we call the gender issues. So as you're talking with the community, you are agreeing on some of the interventions that this community or this society would want to do in order to change the status quo. When we change the society along what we call a gender continuum, from that society being gender exploitative to that society being gender transformative, that is what we call a gender theory of change. Thank you.